I didn't not yell.
Oh,
I did give a few. What the hell are you doing? I did give a few of them.
We know you a busy man, Kobe, so we gonna jump right to it, man.
I'm gonna say Zion Leonard.
Is that dude in a swing?
I'm sick and sick with it. Vision and lift it. Listen, just picture it. Spit and deliver it. The time froze. Undercurrent, how the grind flows. Wrist flicking, said the bezels got a mind blown. You know how to drop beat, everything slow. You know how to drop beat, said anything goes. Pull up to the spot, you might see the squad there. Pull up unannounced, then you might see a broad there. It's just seconds remaining, and I got the rock for the win while you're watching the shot clock. It's just seconds remaining, and I got the rock for the win. Thanks for watching the shot clock. Shot clock. You catch the shot clock every Sunday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.
We never getting that $1 million.
What's going on, everybody, man? Welcome back to the Shot30Clock, man. JD Hoop Scout, Boss of Hard Network, CEO, creator of the Shot30Clock as well, man. And I'm just here today to give y'all updated. This is our ranking show. It is Monday, January the 13th, I want to say. Yes, it is. And we finna get to it, man. We're going to go all the way from the small private schools to the large private schools. But before we do that, definitely going to run these ads real quick before we get there. First and foremost, make sure that y'all tap in with Doug Dozens. He has his Doug Dozen Classic coming up May 16th through the 18th, 2025 for 9U through 17U for boys and girls. If you put multiple teams in, you can get you a little discount. This event is sponsored by West Loop. Make sure that you guys get registered for the Doug Dozens Classic. Also, the future of prospects starts here. This is all of the Boss of Hard Network events that will be taking place this spring and summer. Kicking things off with 2 middle school events, the Gear Up Invitational, February 1st through 2nd, and the Hardwood Showcase, March 1st through 2nd. After that, you got the warm-up, March 28th to 30th, the exhibit, which will be an invitational showcase, April 4th to the 5th. You got the Spring Classic, which will be a qualifier for the Shot Clock Invitational, April 11th to the 13th, tournament style. Dunking on the Coast, May 23rd to 25th on that Memorial Day weekend. Also another qualifier for the Shot30Clock Invitational. Then we got the Top 80 Showcase for players June 16th, as well as our pre-TABC exhibition on June 16th, and then the Shot Clock Invitational. It's almost kind of like the championship of championships as far as grassroots go. Last year was a really great event. People really loved it. Already had teams hitting us up about it. Shot Clock Invitational, June 27th through the 29th. Also, don't forget about Elixir Muscle Recovery of Cypress, Texas, to prevent injuries and to increase your performance. Be sure that you go give Elixir Muscle Recovery on Cypress a follow on Instagram and Twitter and TikTok as well, while TikTok is still up and running. Recovery is used for muscle soreness and pain, muscle tightness, joint soreness and pain, muscle fatigue, to increase circulation, joint limitations, for bruising and contusion, swelling, lack of flexibility, mental fatigue, and concussion symptoms. Make sure that y'all go see them today. Elixir Muscle Recovery of Cypress. All right, make sure that y'all lock in with them. Scan the code right now on your screen. If you have any type of aches and pains, make sure that you get locked in with them. Hey, without further ado, man, let's run down this list of the rankings. First, starting off with the small school basketball rankings, top 15. Not a lot of movement, but we do have a new number 1 team, Legacy Sport School of Sports Sciences Maroon team takes the number 1 spot. Houston Homeschool Raiders drops down to the number 2 spot. Galveston O'Connell, Aggie, Lane Home School, School of the Woods, Calvary Baptist, Faith West, Founders Christian, Legacy White, all kind of remain in the same areas. Um, Legacy Christian and Beaumont, uh, they dropped the game, but they still stayed locked in the number 10. They lost to O'Connell Prep. You got Bob Hope, LP White had a tough outing at the SWAC. Brazosport Christian, Houston Adventist Academy of Cypress, Texas, and then Humble Christian. Teams receiving vote: Kingwood Christian Life, International Leadership Texas, Katy West Park, Divine Savior Academy, CHSA Homeschool Wolverines, and Steel Creek Christian up in Bryan, Texas. That rounds out your small schools as far as the rankings go for your small schools. Hey, we at week 10, still got a couple weeks left to make some jumps and some moves. But let's get into the large private school and independent rankings up next. Starting off, number 1. Hey, this ranking, everybody remained the same, 1 through 10. There was real no movement. Xavier had a really good weekend at the SWAC this weekend. Second Baptist is still rolling. St. Francis is rolling in district play now. Marion took a L to Xavier. Same as EOP took a L to Xavier as well. Woodlands Christian been looking solid. St. John's took a loss to Good Vision Academy, within Good Vision Academy turned around and took a loss to Xavier Academy. So within kind of the voting with the panel, a lot of people kind of just waited, like, okay, you beat them, but then you turn around and lost. Y'all both kind of had the same solid weekend, even though you get the win. It's up to the voters, not up to just one individual. So, and the computer vote as well. So that's how you have it there. And Episcopal, even though they dropped the game to Houston Christian, remains at number 10. You got St. Thomas Catholic making the jump from 13 to 11. Houston Christian, who was on the receiving votes end, finds themselves now within the top 15 at number 12. Big win versus Episcopal this past week. Northland Christian drops from 11 to 13. The Village stays at 14. And Fort Bend Christian, who has had 2 solid wins within district play, finds himself from the receiving votes now in the top 15. To round out the group of teams who are receiving votes for your large private school basketball rankings, you have Aldi International School, Legacy Prep Christian Academy, Rose Hill Christian, First Baptist Christian of Pasadena, Kincaid, PSAT Academy, and you got Westbury Christian. That rounds out your large private independent school rankings. Here we go. Moving on to our UIL 3A rankings. Remaining at number 1 is Kuntz. Matter of fact, 1 through 9 didn't change on this one. Kuntz still stays number 1. Hitchcock remains at number 2. East Chambers, although Kuntz beat East Chambers remains number 3. Orangefield 4. On Alaska at 5. Crockett at 6. Rice Consolidated, Altar Rice Consolidated is at 7. Bowling is at 8. Trinity remains at 9. They dropped the game on Alaska this past weekend. And then Edna finds themselves in the top 10. Last week they were on the receiving vote end. Team that dropped out of the top 10 into the receiving votes was Industrial. Also receiving votes, you have Anderson Shiro, Columbus, Cold Spring, Oakhurst, and Wallace Brazos are the teams receiving vote. You got a big matchup this week, which number 5 versus number 6 in this group. That is on Alaska versus Crockett. That should be a really big game that's going to take place this week. It's a district game. Also, we'll see what happens with that game as far as rankings. We can see on Alaska finally cracking in this top 4 ranking, depending on the type of win they get, or we can see them drop a spot if they drop the game to Crockett, and we can see Crockett moving up the ladder on that list. Going into the 4A team rankings. 4A team rankings, pretty much the same. 1 through 5 remains the same. Stafford at number 1, still sitting at 25-0 on the season, have not lost a game yet. Huffman Hargraves at number 2, Lamarck's at number 3, Booker T remains at number 4, Wheatley at number 5. You have Yates, who moves up from 7 to 6. Forbin Crawford moves up from 8 to 7. Vider drops down from 6 to 8. Silsby moves up from 10 to 9. And then Tarkington moves down from 9 to 10. Tarkington took a tough loss to Huffman Hargrave this past week. Vider took some loss this past week as well. Forbin Crawford also lost to Stafford this past week. Also, teams receiving votes, you got Livingston, Hampshire Fernet, Bridge City, Navasota, Shepherd, and Worthing. You got a big matchup this week, and both teams are undefeated in district play. And I will be at that game. That game is on tomorrow, and that is Huffman Hargrave at number 2. They'll be taking on Hampshire Fernet, who is receiving votes. Who actually would, if we did like a top 15 within this list, which I think we're going to vote for to see if we want to move to top 15 next season. You would have Hampshire Fernet would come in at number 12 on the list. Moving on to UIL 5A rankings for week 10. Number 1, 2, 3, and 4 stays the same. Fort Bend Marshall, number 1. Westbrook at number 2. Friendswood is at number 3, and Iowa Conley is at number 4. Interesting because Friendswood took a loss to Angleton, but then turned around and they beat Iowa Colony. Beaumont United jumps up from 8 to 5. Barboursville drops down from 5 to 6. They beat P&G, but then they took a loss to Nederland. Port Arthur Memorial from 6 to 7. They lost to United. LaPorte drops from 7 to 8. They also took a L to Iowa Colony on a controversial inbound play where the ball was passed in, nobody hit it, but they said that LaPorte hit it. That's neither here nor there. This is a ranking. Brenham, number 9, Montgomery from 11 to 10. Nederland, even though they beat Barboursville, they dropped the game, so they stay in that same spot, number 11. Crosby at number 12, Kingwood Park 13, Huntsville 14. Angleton jumps up to 15. Springwoods is at 16. College Station 17. Randall was on the outside looking in with receiving votes. Jumps up to number 18. Waltrip jumps down from number 15 to 19 after taking a tough loss to Springwoods. And Pasadena finds himself from the receiving votes moving up into the rankings. 2 teams that dropped out of the rankings who's sitting at the top of receiving votes is Fort Bend, Kempner, and Dayton. 5 other teams who are receiving votes within the 5A is Baytown Sterling, Rudder, Lake Creek, Port Neches Grove, and Galveston Ball. You got a big matchup this week. Tomorrow, matter of fact, Barboursville at Beaumont Westbrook. Barboursville also is playing Baytown Sterling on Friday, who was a receiving vote team, who was sitting just right outside of that top 20 list. So they got an interesting week coming up, and this is going to be the halfway mark for them, for everybody pretty much as far as district play goes. Before we get to the final, before we get to 6A, just want to remind people how our voting system works. So on the panel, we have about 6 guys who vote, 6 guys who are out and about watching basketball game, trusted eyes. These are people that you just don't know who they are as voters. It's not just me. It's not just Doug that you see and so on and so forth, but we use other guys as well. Also, we use 2 computer system rankings. So one of the computer system rankings that we use is Max Preps. We use Max Preps ranking, and Max Preps kind of does it non-biasedly. And so the more wins you get, the higher you're going to be ranked. The tougher your schedule. That also goes within the Max Preps computer system as well. And so we use Max Preps rankings for each classification as well, even the private school votes. And that does affect a lot of the private schools because they don't be updating all the information on Max Preps like the public schools do. So it definitely does affect them within the ranking system. And then we use the Ball So Hard RPI ranking system, which is another computer ranking system that I created myself. And so the formulas take your wins and losses and your opponents' wins and losses, the strength of your schedule, strength of your opponent's schedule. Plus, on our end, we do a bonus side as far as if depending on what prospects you have on the team, where they're going, so forth and so on, like that. But it's still a computer system. It's a formula created, and all I do is put who win and scores, and it just populates itself, and I don't have to touch it or move anything around. So that's how our ranking system go. Moving on to the final one, 6A, UIL rankings, top 25 for week 10. You have Shadow Creek, Katy Jordan, Atascocita, all remaining 1, 2, and 3. Clay Spring jumps up from 5 to 4. Seven Lakes jumps up from 7 to 5. Travis jumps up from 8 to 6. Bel Air jumps up from 9 to 7. Grand Oaks jumps up from 10 to 8. Ridge Point took one to the chin. For Austin, they dropped down from 6 to 9. Katy jumps up from 12 to 10. Cinco Ranch dropped 2 games. They lost to Seven Lakes and to Katy. This past week, they dropped down from 4 to number 11. That also put them in 4th place within their district. C. King jumps up from 13 to 12. Summer Creek from 14 to 13. Bush, despite having a solid week, they dropped 3 spots, 11 to 14. Fort Bend Austin remained at number 15 because they dropped the game, and then they turned around and beat Ridge Point. So that kind of put them right back to where they were. Cy Falls stays at number 17. Side Springs jumps from 19 to 17. College Park from 20 to 18. Straight Jesuit from 22 to 19. Side Park from 21 to 20. Despite the loss to Side Woods this past week as a buzzer beater shot. Side Creek from 17 to 21. Peyto from 25 to 22. Clearbrook remains at number 23. Clear Falls is at number 24. They was receiving votes last week, so they find themselves within the top 25. And then West Side was number 18. They dropped down to number 25 following a loss to the Heights this past weekend. Other teams that are receiving votes, you have Side Ranch just sitting right there on the outside, barely missed by 1 vote to West Side for that final spot. Fort Bend Clement, South Houston, who was in the top 25, drops out of it. They had 2 losses this past week, looking to bounce back this week. You have the Heights receiving votes. Foster, this is the first time this season that Foster is receiving votes, followed by Side Woods. Willis, Pearland is back to receiving votes. They were top 25 in the first 2 weeks of the season. They dropped out. Now we're at week 10. They find themselves almost back in the mix with receiving votes. Then we have Kingwood receiving votes and Dickinson still finding a way to fight to receive votes. That does it, man. That is your Shot 30 Clock top rankings of the week for all your UIL schools and your private independent schools, man. We will see y'all next week, man. Until the next time, that's